You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete signal transmission trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete signal transmission trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
Well, hello and welcome to the Jay Allen Show. We are coming to you live from the Safety FM studios in Orlando, Florida. Hopefully everything is going well in your neck of the woods. Yes, definitely some interesting times that we're living through. Well, today, it's all about conversations, and that's what we do here on the Jay Allen Show. And today is no different. I'm going to tell you, today is going to be one of these conversations that I hope you enjoy. Now, I will tell you, this conversation is pre-recorded. The reason that I'm telling you this is because the time difference was so huge that I had to record this thing ahead of time, and we were not able to do it live on the radio station. So I want you to know exactly what's going on. But today, I've been looking forward to this moment for several weeks. It took some time to get this done, but man, it finally did, and I was super excited during the interview. I had the opportunity of speaking with Lucas Skrobot. If you're not familiar with Lucas, Lucas has his own show known as the Lucas Skrobot Show. Anyways, Lucas is an author, a podcaster, a strategist helping people change and making their brands active among their tribe. Lucas actually is based out of United Arab Emirates, so that's why the time changed, and we had to do some of this stuff earlier than expected. Anyway, so we've been sitting on this one. I'm super excited about getting this started, so take a listen here today with my interview with the Lucas Skrobot here on the Jay Allen Show.
And now I love your strategy and I'd love to hear more about it. You have decided to move radio first rather than podcast platform, RSS feed first. What has been what's some of your journey? I know I'm flipping this on its head.
I was going to say, Lucas, you're on here and you're flipping on me.
I'm flipping, but you know what? I have found in all of my interviews that the most enjoyable interviews is when the interviewee begins to flip the conversation on its head, and it's actually a two-way rather than the person just sitting waiting for the next question. So
well here's the funny part. All of my people already know about me. I'm so interested in you, which kind of is the other point here, because let's be realistic. The people that are not going to know the behind the scenes thing, I've been waiting for about 42 days for this thing. Because we had some plans and then some things had to change. You had a studio a studio change that you had going on. Yeah. And then when we tried to schedule again, I had something going on that particular day. So we're 42 days in. And believe me, I've been looking at this for quite some time.
Wow. I'm very impressed that you have a day count on how many days that we are in. I just know oh my goodness, it has been weeks now and we need to make this happen. But yeah, moved to a different studio location and then had AC problems and just finally got it to a place, and it was like, okay, where's Jay? Find that email. Let's schedule it. Let's do it. Let's get it on the books. But I'm flipping it back on you because I know that all your audience has probably heard it, 25 times. But I found that there's so much that we think that everyone knows, right? We think that, everyone knows my origin story. Of course they know that. But people are, by and large, and rightly so, mostly just concerned about themselves. And they forget about other people's stories, right? People forget. People aren't paying that close attention. So I want to hear, because I think there's probably a lot of nuggets in it. What caused you to go kind of radio first? And are you actually, on FM radio, or is it internet streaming radio? And then what has been your progression? Because I've seen you're also moving now to video on YouTube. I see you're doing some streaming there.
Well, here's the thing. My love for radio has been for a very long period of time. I will tell you, probably since the age of 8 was probably when I really fell in love with radio per se. And I looked at it from the standpoint of you were able, at least at that time, sitting inside of the car with my parents. And it's probably one of the most miserable times of the day where you're actually going back and forth between job, school, so on. I mean, they're trying to do the runaround and get you to one place to another. But the person that's actually in charge of the whole environment inside of the vehicle is the person on the radio.
Wow.
They determine the music that's going on, the mood, and what exactly is going on. And I always looked at it, since I had a better understanding of it, where it's theater of the mind.
Yes.
They're telling you how great everything is.
Yes.
They're playing that great jazz music, if that's what you're listening to, that great pop song, that great rock song, and they're in controlling the environment. If the song sucks, they also control that too. That's the other bad part. So I always looked at it from that standpoint. I always said, I can tell you that I'm doing X, Y, and Z, but if you can't see me, how do you know it's true? You're letting me control what you're thinking by listening to what I have to say. Terrible thing to say out loud, but it's the truth. That's how I mostly came about. And ever since then, I looked at it. I probably changed degrees inside of my career when I was going to school 5 times, which that's another great episode that you have there in regards of careers and what a piece of paper is worth, but we can get into that in a few. But I looked at it and I always knew that the love of radio was there, and I was hesitant about doing it because I know that the whole journey starting off was not going to be great. Most people have to start off in a small town, move their way up and so on.
Right.
And I was hesitant about doing that, especially with some of the stuff that I was looking into doing at the time. But I fell in love with it, started doing it probably right before I started college. And the interesting part was that I started doing Christian radio, where I was speaking over little clips that were related to sermons and what my viewpoint was.
You were giving
on them.
commentary on sermon commentary.
Yes.
That is like so meta. That is like you have the scripture, and then the sermon is like commentary on the scripture, and then it's commentary on the commentary on scripture.
You got it. That's exactly what it was.
So
it was so interesting on how that whole thing worked. But I learned so much just being at that radio station back in the time, and it was just they let me do a little bit of everything as I was starting off. But boy, did I learn quickly that was not the genre that I wanted to be in.
So you actually started in old media radio. It's not just you came onto the scene with new media kind of podcast. Just slapping the word FM radio on it like a lot of people do. But you were actually born kind of cut your teeth on real radio. And then that has grown into, now you have a syndicate with, as you said, 17 shows. I think that's just incredible. And what I really love
we started off with AM station is really what it boiled down to. I'll even tell you how old it was. It was reel to reel on how you did the editing back then. So that's how old school that was.
Wow. I don't have any context for that world besides,
Do you remember tape?
No, I do.
Tapes.
I'm not that
So
yet.
tape, there was this thing, and that's what and realistically, when you do editing nowadays, it's very simple because you're doing it in a DAW, you're doing it in an audio format digitally. Well, you had to actually normally take a piece of tape.
Cut tape.
Yeah, piece of tape, and you had a small blade, and you would cut it. And then move it out and pray to God that you did not cut out a piece of the content that was important, and then tape it together, put it into the reel-to-reel, and play it again, and hope that you didn't have another edit shortly thereafter.
I'm just saying that, all these kids listening to the show that don't know what you're talking about as they're swiping through their TikToks, there is a whole nother world out there, and we should be really grateful for the incredible ease that we live in today. But I fear at times kind of all of that ease, all of that grease that is that's greasing the skids of society today. It's having a lot of detrimental effects on our inability to have a sense of perseverance and endurance, on our inability to have that sense of grit, to know patience. Now, obviously, it's not everyone. I think this is probably the most entrepreneurial generation maybe ever. But at the same time, there seems to be a lot of detrimental side effects to the ease that technology has brought.
No, I agree. I agree 100% with you. I mean, and the funny part is that I like how you do that. You insult them, slap them around a little bit, and then bring them back into reality.
Absolutely. And another thing that I really love is how you notice that the radio announcer, the presenter has this ability to really set culture, to set people's days, whether good or bad, and help and influence, and in some ways be a friend. I think that's the thing that I love about podcasting. I'm podcast first. If you could see my whiteboard right now that I'm looking at, right there it says late night talk radio, and most of the things that are on my board is me kind of backing in from new media, podcasting, thinking, okay, how can I do, talk radios similar to what you're doing, in a way that is consistent more than just once a week or twice a week? How can I build those systems in to actually move to that? Because I think it is such a powerful medium. And one of the reasons why, and which I'm sure you agree with and probably talk with your audience about as well, it's you and the listener, right? It's a medium where it's not something that's shared around the television and everyone's kind of commenting. It's such a personal medium, just that voice between my microphone across the airwaves into someone's ears. It feels like that one-to-one conversation. And with that, I feel like the conversation becomes so personal. And that's one of the things I've really come to love in a deep way about podcasting and radio.
So where did you fall in love? Let's go through that. How did this come about to you? Where did you decide, okay, I'm going to start a podcast? Where was the love prior to getting to that?
Yeah, when I don't know if I was 8, when I was young, I wasn't 8, but when I was young, I wanted to be a director. I wanted to be a film director. I love story. I love movie. But in that time, I also really hated English literature and I loved mathematics. But I remember watching a movie, it must have been my sophomore year of high school, Finding Forrester. And I remember in this movie, it just came away from the movie so impacted by this young kid's desire and drive to learn how to write, to learn how to communicate. And that really was a very monumental moment, shaping moment in my life that really pushed me down the path of giving myself to writing, communication. And fast forward many, many years, I actually had a dream. I had a dream where I started a podcast talking with mostly third cultured kids, kids who are not kid. When I say kids, I mean like, people in their 20s and 30s. Even though I'm in my 30s, I'm still a kid, right? So talking with third cultured young people and helping navigate their life, because I'm a third cultured kid, which if for those listening who don't know what it means to be third cultured, it means that you grew up in an environment, in a surrounding, in a culture that it was different than your parents' culture and the culture of your home. So you become a mix of those two cultures. So growing up, my dad was a pilot, and because of that, we moved around quite a lot. And so I grew up with having one culture in my home and then another culture in the country that I lived in, and I didn't fit in either place. And I developed what was called a third culture, and kind of right in the middle of those two. And there's a whole kind of community of these third cultured kids. And when you meet one, they're like, oh man, I'm with my tribe. I'm with my people. I'm understood and I understand them in the same moment. So I had this dream two plus years ago now, probably 2.5 years ago. And so as I started working on, okay, well, what does it mean? How do I start a podcast? I was talking with some other friends. I asked myself, okay, who's the smartest person I know? And it was a guy who has a PhD from Harvard. And so I talked to him like, how do I do this? How can I make an impact? What is the way forward? And he was like, man, forget about all the social media stuff. Start a podcast, start dialogue with people, start conversations with people, long form media, persuasion strategy. And so I said, okay, great. That's what I'll do. And so we are now 173 episodes in, 2 years deep. And I feel like I've not even begun to scratch the surface and still figuring it out in so many ways.
So when you take a look at that and you look at this whole timeline, so why was Finding Forrester? Now we're talking 2000 when this movie came out. I think it's like right at 2000.
Yeah. 2000.
So that movie comes out. Why does it have such a big influence on you?
It's like, like resonating frequencies, right? Where if a frequency is like resonating, it can like tear down this entire wall because it's creating standing waves. And I think that in life, there are these divine moments, these divine appointments is what I call them, where there's these moments where there's this wave that resonates with your purposes, what you were created for. It's like this calling, if you will, if I can use that word, calling. And for whatever reason, that movie struck a chord and it resonated with who I was created to be. I think, at least. I'd like to think so, at least. And of course, I had a moment there where I could essentially say, screw that. I'm just going to keep on living my loser life. And I was living a loser life. I hated myself. I hated everyone else around me. I was miserable, self-loathing, typical teenage angst. I could have said, I don't want to make anything of my life. I'm just angry and bitter. I'm going to stay angry and bitter. But I saw in this story something resonate with me that, man, I could become something great. I could tell a story. I could learn how to use words and help people and communicate something. So I don't know why. All I know, it just felt like this moment that resonated with me. And I can still remember sitting, I watched it by myself, I think. And I remember coming away from that movie so inspired that I went to the computer. I was probably up to like 2 a.m. trying to figure out how to write a short story or something. But it just had such a profound impact, one of those moments. I don't know why, but it did.
So what country are you living in at the time?
At that point, my dad was a pilot in Papua New Guinea.
Okay. So how do you go from there then 4 years later in Colorado? Are you doing it online or are you doing it in person?
So 4 years later. So
I should specify going to college. Let me phrase it that way.
Oh, right. Going to college. So, right. I started my podcast 2 years ago. So it's,
okay.
What's that, a 20-year gap? No, 18-year gap.
Mm-hmm.
In university, I was studying mathematics, and I took some English literature courses, and my whole life growing up, the narrative that I had told myself was that I hate reading, I hate books, I hate English literature, I hate language arts. And I just fell in love. These stories just gripped me. The ability to articulate and pull out of stories and weave together thoughts and arguments, motifs. I was just so hooked. I loved it. So I got a math minor instead of a math major. I took the easy road out, went to English literature, one of those liberal arts degrees that probably was not worth its weight in gold. But, and so it was in that time that I really gave myself to saying, how do I think critically? How do I put together words and arguments in such a way that can be persuasive? And so that was in university. And then it was, a long path with many turns and twists that aren't necessarily super relevant to where, I felt like, hey, I need to start a podcast. I have something that I need to say. I want to connect with this community. I want to be able to serve this community. And more than that, I want to make an impact in 30, 40 years. Like 30 years from now, I want to say, okay, I have been able to make some sort of impact on the world. I've been able to help some people in a deep way, not helping many in a shallow way, but how can I help a few people in a significantly deep way that really changes the course of their life, which will in turn change the course of their kids and their grandkids and their great-great-great-grandchildren's lives. And that is one of the things I try to think about. I think, what can I do today and work on today and invest my life's energy in today so that 300 years from now, I will have made an impact? How can I think multi-generationally rather than trying to think in shorter and shorter nanoseconds?
So when you say that, because here's the interesting part, you recently put out an episode about big decisions.
Yes.
But you talk about the small decisions lead to the big decisions.
Yes. So
how do you take that approach then, where you want this to be something that has an impact 300 years later? Now, of course, we're assuming at this point, podcast medium has changed. Now it's something entirely different. What do you think you're doing today that will have that impact later down the road?
That's a great question. So in that episode, right, I talked, just as you say, about stop making big decisions. In that, if we are living our lives and we're constantly coming up to these really big decisions that we feel like they're life altering, and we have to pull out all of our mentors and take weeks of deliberating, and we're just filled with anxiety trying to figure out what's the right choice, it's probably a sign that we have deeper underlying system issues that aren't calibrated properly. And so my argument in that episode is, we need to stop worrying about these massive decisions and start worrying about the small systems that we are putting in place in our life on a day in, day out basis, which is really going to shape the culture of our life, of our family, of the way that we interact with people around us. And if we're shaping the culture of our daily life, the small things, those 15-minute period when you come home from work, what does that look like? What does putting your kids down to bed look like? Is that a pleasurable experience for you? These small 15-30-minute periods of life really add up to a significant portion of our life. If we can make good small decisions there, that will have actually such a greater impact on the whole of our life, rather than trying to figure out, which degree should I get, or which car should I buy? And then with that, to come back to the second part of your question, by making those small decisions, I then am able to set a culture within my life, within my family. And that culture that I set is going to have an impact on my kids. My kids are going to pick up that culture. The people that I interact with, the listeners of the show, they're going to pick up the culture. And as they pick up that culture, they're transformed in a deep way. So rather than just, quick hacks and tips, it's how can we get a transformative long-term persuasion strategy that is helping people, so that it creates a cascading domino effect that, even though my name will probably be forgotten in 300 years. I mean, really, when we think of like Plato, when we think of like Alexander the Great, we know their names and we know what they've done, but we don't know who they are. And what most of us, I think all of us, are probably really longing for, when we're longing for that worldly aspiration to want to put a dent on the universe, to want to make an impact and a change. We want people to remember us. We want people to know who we are. We're searching and we're desperate to be and feel loved. And I know that my name will probably not be remembered, but if I can have an impact on my circle around me, which is going to have the effect of them having an impact on the circle around them, that I can leave a lasting impact and a lasting legacy with my life, even if my name is forgotten. And it probably will be. I don't know my great-great-great-grandfather's name.
Oh, I don't either, or my own either.
Yeah.
But let me ask you a question then, real quick. You did use a word there, and some people might take it the wrong way when you say persuasion.
Absolutely.
And you know that's going to throw some people off right away. So I just want to make sure that we give a clear understanding on what you mean by that.
So when you hear that word, what comes to your mind? The negative kind of, oh, what does he mean there?
No, you know automatically that most people are going to make the assumption that you're trying to manipulate the way they think.
Mm-hmm. And I think, and I would say absolutely 100% you are correct. And this is the thing. Every single interaction that you have with every single individual TV show, advertisement, product, can of water or soda, everything is trying to influence the way that you think. Because our thoughts produce our feelings produce our actions, and our actions produce our thoughts. The things that we think shape our lives. Every corporation, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the DNC, the RNC, the UN, the EU, they are all working to influence the way that we think, our spouse, our kids, we're that's that book by Dan Pink. You're always
Don't say
selling.
that out loud that your spouse is trying to influence the way you think. I would never say that to my wife. I might end up outside.
I think absolutely. I mean, we're always selling. Whether it's we want people to live a healthier lifestyle, whether it's we want people to buy our product, whether we want people to be more safe in their organizations, whether it's having a better organization, to have employees that are more empathetic towards one another. Everything that we do in some way, shape, or form is persuasion. And I think the danger that many people live in is the unawareness of the systems that are at work, that are shaping the way that we think. I've been talking about this on lots of different episodes. It feels like recently on Instagram, recently in with my family recently. Netflix, right? This new show that they have is out, Cuties. It's influencing the way that we think. It's desensitizing us to child pornography. It's desensitizing us to pedophilia. And now it's this flashpoint moment in culture where everyone's, either fighting for it or fighting against it. But I think the important thing to realize is we have gotten to this place because there's been many, many, many other dominoes that has been set up, 20, 30, 40 years ago, that have slowly moved that Overton window to change the way that we think, to change what's acceptable to talk about in society, to change the way that we think relationships should happen. I was just reading this article comparing the 1950s to 2020, and it is shocking just looking at the suicide rates, just the homelessness, the difference in America between 1950 and 2020 should shock us to realize that something has changed in the fabric of our society, and we should be startled.
Now, when you say that and you take a look at some of this stuff, especially referencing Cuties, of course, one can sit here and we can talk about what most people perceive about the movie, but we can also discuss what the director is claiming, but I don't think people
Correct.
want that kind of detail at the moment.
Correct.
But what I'm thinking as we talk about this, as you see the changes between the 1950s to the 2020s, and something like the movie Cuties as an example, we'll just talk the overlay portion. Do you see this being a issue with family values that has caused this?
I mean, I think it would be hard to say no, and this is why. I think as parents and as families, I think in so many ways we have abdicated our responsibility, and we have abdicated it to the public school system. We have abdicated it to television and media. We have allowed MTV, we have allowed Nickelodeon to tell our kids the culture that they should have, what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. And so I think in many ways, yes, family values, and I think in many ways, parental responsibility. I've been actually thinking about this question for a coming episode and thinking, okay, what has happened between 1950 and 2020? Like, what are some of the kind of the keystone events in American history that has caused that? And I haven't fully developed those thoughts, so I feel like if I would say something, I would probably end up walking it back in my mind at least a couple weeks later. But some of the things I would feel comfortable with saying is, shows like 2.5 Men, shows like Friends, shows like whether it's Seinfeld or Third Rock from the Sun, these sitcoms in so many ways opened that Overton window and allowed us to laugh at things that before were socially unacceptable. And what one generation laughs at, the next generation embraces. And so if you look over time as how people have begun to accept things and laugh at things in society that are really damaging to some members in that society, we begin to embrace it, and then it becomes normalized. And then we need that dopamine hit. And so we have to continue to push the envelope. I mean, even Game of Thrones, I haven't watched it, but the things that I've heard about it is it's essentially watching porn. And so when that has become so normalized within society and within culture, the only logical conclusion would be a series like Cuties, in my mind. And because it's that Overton window that is keeping on shifting and moving.
So as you say this, and you know that some of the shows you reference are quote unquote staples in the American series TV scenario. And I'll tell you, a good chunk of those that you've mentioned, I think I might have caught 1 or 2 episodes. I've never watched Game of Thrones. I've only heard rumor sequences and things along those lines.
Likewise.
But do you take a look at this and do you go back and go, this is related in just in general, of course, where people will put their children in front of a television to make that be the babysitter? Because that was a big thing, especially late 90s, early 2000s. I'm not passing judgment, believe me. I think that it just seemed to be like a common theme that people were seeing.
Right. So, I mean, I'm not saying that I think that parents put their kids in front of Game of Thrones in the last 10 years as a babysitter, and that's desensitizing.
I hope not.
But I think, right, what we are embracing through that acceptance in the culture, that is going to have an outplay as those people are creating and saying what is our moral standards, and that is affecting the next generation. I think, for sure, even in some ways, we put our kids in front of a screen to babysit them for, 2 hours a day. And, sure that you can say, well, they're watching Magic School Bus, they're young, 7 to 1. Sure, they're watching Magic School Bus and educational stuff, but still there's a cultural encoded message that says people like us do things like this. This is how we act in the world. This is acceptable and this is normal. And I can probably say I probably don't audit all the shows on Netflix that my kids are watching, enough as I should. And then you look at how kids these days are being introduced to pornography at as early as 8 years old, addicted to pornography at 8 years old, which is highly destructive to, the dopamine patterns in kids' minds and can cause erectile dysfunction and all these physically unhealthy patterns in their life and abuse at such an early age, especially with the birth of the phone and digital media. And, you go on YouTube and you're like 3 clicks away from being on a porn site. And so I don't necessarily, I'm not throwing all the blame on parents. I think that society has rapidly changed and we need to think of, okay, are we putting screens in front of our kids? And if we are, what is the lasting consequences of that 20 years down the road?
But we can almost play devil's advocate here, and I'm not going to say that what we're doing is porn, but we're also looking for people to access a digital screen to listen to what we're doing. How do you look at that then?
So I like this question. Here, we live in the Middle East, and when I looked at the statistics of the Middle East, the ages of 15 to 22 probably are on screens 9 hours a day. 9 hours a day, they're on their smartphone, right? And they're just, unsupervised doing whatever. So I look at that as an opportunity. I think that we need to engage. If we want to see something shift, well, we're not going to do it by just backing off and disengaging and saying like, well, I guess the world's going to hell in a handbasket, Betsy, and, let's dig the bunker and, buy a bunch of canned food. Like, okay.
There are some people that are doing that. Okay. I just want to throw that out there.
It is 2020. Yeah. So like, that's one way. The other way is, okay, well, if this is where the attention is, if this is where the eyeballs are, even though these platforms are so highly addictive, like they are there, if I can interrupt them with what they are consuming that could be toxic, maybe I could interrupt them, and maybe that interruption could be a trigger point, just like Finding Forrester was a piece of media in an age where, I mean, yeah, I was at that age, I was in ICQ chat rooms, and I was, emailing my friends and on MSN and AOL, so the internet was being born, but I was consuming a piece of media, and that piece of media had a profound impact on my life. And so, I like the devil's advocate question, and I think the answer would be, just as Finding Forrester had a huge impact on my life, maybe I could create a piece of content, one piece of content that one person hears, and that has a profound impact on his life or her life, and she decides to make a different decision and go a different path in a different way. And that could and that would be enough.
Now, when you do some of your shows, and I want to ask this because of some of the topics that you cover and you as a person, do you see your show and some of the topics you cover and yourself as a controversial figure?
You know what? I think there's a lot of things that I cover that
you're so kind on how you word that. There's a whole lot of stuff that you cover in 173 episodes. It's a pretty big gamut of stuff that you're covering. I'm not going to say that I did not actually go through your whole catalog. I don't want to admit that on the air or anything.
That I would be so. I don't know if I've even gone through. I have gone through my whole catalog. I edit all my stuff, but I don't see myself as a controversial figure. I don't set out to be a controversial figure when I'm having episodes with interviews. I often kick myself afterwards because I strayed away from the obvious hard question, like the deer in the headlight question, put them on the spot, sort of hardball interview. So my aim is not to be a controversial figure, but when I look at the content, it is definitely countercultural, especially with what's out there today. The things that
in other words, you're a controversial figure. If it's countercultural, you know that.
Yeah,
you're a smart guy. I mean, I can too.
So I like it. I like you, Jay. Here's the thing, Jay. I agree with you, and here's the scary thing to admit.
But on the smart guy piece, is that what you're agreeing on? I mean, that's kind of sorry.
I probably pull 95% of my punches. Like,
that's scary.
Like, for being a culture, and obviously some of the stuff, in the recent months, I think I've been a little bit more forthright, and a little bit more articulate in some of it. But I still think I am hedging a lot of what I'm saying because I'm still trying to operate within that Overton window. I don't want to just, cut all of my audience out. But I often wonder, I'm like, man, am I just half pregnant? Am I just half pregnant right now? And it would actually do better if I was maybe more political, or I do better if I was maybe more controversial. I do better if I, talked more about aliens and ET or something like that. If I was more on the fringe, would I actually do better? So I think, to answer your question, yes, I talk about a lot of controversial stuff. I'm not setting out to be a controversial figure as far as, trying to rile stuff up. And because of that, I feel like I am half pregnant. And in some ways, I wish that I would push the envelope.
Well, the clips that sometimes you choose for your video sequences, and I'm going to tell you the ones that I've seen on social media, they're very thought-provoking.
Good.
And they are controversial to an extent, even the clips that you use. And I love when you do the little pen gimmick where you have the pen in the hand when you're doing that.
I have a pen. I have a pencil in my hand right now, a pencil in my hand right now. And this actually, going all the way back to high school, I have had this model pencil. It's a mechanical pencil from my high school days. And I love this pencil so much. I went online, found it, and I ordered 20 of this pencil because it is just such an epic pencil. But yeah, that's a sidebar.
I'm thinking sponsorship here.
You know what? I think the pencil's discontinued. That is so sad. Like radio and tape.
That hurt. Oh, I'm in so much pain.
I mean, I'm glad that the clips that I post are controversial. I'm hoping that it's going to cause people, like I try to post the clips that are going to cause people to stop and think and hopefully have a conversation and share it and go and listen. So yeah, absolutely. I'm glad.
Well, I mean, I look at it that you're doing the right thing, because the whole setup, I don't think that when people hear your voice, they're not expecting to see what they see when they get to the video.
What does my voice sound like?
Well, let me explain, because let me explain. I don't expect with a guy with business attire telling me some of the things that you say. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But there's some controversy on some of the stuff that you say. Like, let's go to some of the recent stuff.
Let's go.
Especially when you're talking about the online degree and how it's not so important to have the name of the school on there.
Well, so
you're not expecting somebody in a business suit telling you that. You're expecting the person in the business suit to tell you how important is that school that's on that document.
100%.
But the angle on how you did it too, of who's the schooling really for. I mean, I don't want to give away the whole episode, of course.
Well, 100%.
But how you did that is really smart.
100%. So who's it for and what's it for? And so if the question I received was, what do you think the value of an online degree is? And so I had to stop and think. I'm like, okay, well, online degree, what's the value of a degree? And I think right now, especially, in many ways, the learning that we receive from a degree isn't necessarily super valuable, but the branding that we get from a stamp on a sheet of paper is valuable. Is that value going to inflate over time and actually not mean as much? I think so. And I think we're already beginning to see the inflation of some of these brand schools, which I still feel like they carry a lot of weight. Someone going to Harvard, a top name school, is going to carry a lot of weight. But someone not and still paying a bunch of money, how important is it? And then it goes back to your goals of, well, why are you going? Are you going to actually learn something? Are you going because you want to learn? Or are you going because you want a sheet of paper? And I think that really does affect the way that we would make that decision. But yeah, so I wear a suit, and I wear a suit because, one, I love the way that I feel in a suit, and I love the presentation that it brings. But you're right in so many ways. A lot of what I talk about seems like I should, have, a peace sign over my shoulder and wearing a tie-dye shirt and being like the third eye sort of controversial.
But we don't know if you have pants on, so we'll leave it at that.
Actually,
we don't know if you have pants.
We don't know, but I do.
So let me ask a question, and this one is something that I've been interested on your perspective on. What do you think about this whole thing with cancel culture?
Cancel culture. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the question?
So we'll use an example here. So let's say, for instance, I don't like what you're doing on your show.
Yeah.
So people start making posts that no one should listen to your shows going forward because you have said something that's offensive. So now we're canceling you out of society. No one should do business with you. No one should listen to what you have going on. So now, that kind of aspect.
So now, Jay, can I pay you to make these posts? Because I think it would really help my show. If you spent many episodes just bashing my show, I think that would be great publicity.
Well, I have some ideas, but we'll talk about that after we're done. So,
yeah, I think cancel culture on a whole is toxic. I think freedom of speech is freedom of speech. People should be able to have the freedom to express what they think and want. With that, if I don't like your show, I think I should have the right to tell my friends, hey, I don't like Jay's show. You shouldn't like it either. And I'm going to block them. That's my, sure, go ahead and do that. Whatever. I think where it becomes problematic is where, which is what we have recently seen, where a journalist posts something in the New York Times and he loses his job, right? Or, I think when people are losing their jobs over something that they say because the mob goes after them and cancels them, that's where I think it gets pretty childish. I think that's a good word for it. I think it just feels very immature and childish. I feel like people haven't learned how to have a conversation where we disagree, but we can still have a conversation around the topic that we're talking about, not just slandering the other person's name and calling them names, and actually avoiding the facts and the information at hand. And so, while at the same time, I can see on the other side of cancel culture, where people are also trying to block people out of the media or censor people out of the media. So I think it's right now, at least in the politics of America, I think it's kind of a two-way street that's going on, and I think that we need to have more civil discourse of disagreement, where people come together and they're able to have a healthy, mature adult relationship where we talk about issues and figure out how we can solve these issues together.
So do you think that we've become too politically correct then?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think political correctness is just, you know, I'm not a fan of political correctness. I think it is a strategy to limit freedom of speech. And this is something I've been kicking around, so I may walk this back. But here's, a thought to run with me.
On September the 22nd, this is what we decided to go with here. Okay,
We're in the
clear. We're in the clear.
The jury is still out. Okay, hate crime. By the very definition, hate crime is an oxymoron. If I commit a crime, clearly there is hate involved. Clearly there is dislike involved. And so the fact that someone can commit a hate crime is an oxymoron, because all of a sudden we're assigning some sort of extra special thing on it because of an intent that we can't necessarily perceive or know. So I think if someone kills someone, if someone murders someone, that is a crime. And why should a person get a bigger sentence if it was done with hate in their heart? Because obviously it was done with hate in their heart. And so where I'm going with that, connected to PC culture, is we have all of a sudden started laying on really what is, critical race theory, intersectionality, cultural postmodernism, whatever you want to call it, that was intentionally designed out of Marxism to undermine the morality and undermine the system of America. And this is well documented. It's not even like conspiracy theory. It's well documented, saying that if we can create a racial division using minorities as the power play rather than the bourgeoisie over the proletariat, then we can undermine the social fabric of America. And if it's divided, it can't stand. And that's where I feel that we're at, that what we're seeing today was not something that was an accident. It wasn't something that just happened. Back to this persuasion thing. It was that there were people with nefarious plans, and they played the long game, and they said, you know what? If we set up these systems, these plans, if we infiltrate the education system, if we infiltrate the judicial system, if we infiltrate media, and we can undermine the moral fabric of society, if we can set up a welfare system, if we can undermine that moral fabric, then everything will fall apart on itself and they will destroy themselves. And I feel like that's what we're seeing. We're seeing such a tear in our culture, and it really saddens me. And I really do pray that we can find restoration and reconciliation in the fabric of our nation moving forward.
You see what I'm saying when I tell you that you talk about controversial subjects?
I totally see what you mean. Jay, I'm so grateful that you brought me onto your show to talk about controversial subjects.
Oh, I love it. You know that I do. Now, Lucas, if people want to know about your book that you did not mention and where to get the podcast, where can they go?
You know what? My book is Anchor, the Discipline to Stop Drifting. I wrote that in a time of my life where everything was drifting. I was about 25. I felt like I was moving up the food chain and stepping into greater things. And I found myself flat on my face, realizing that I was busy and not productive and all of my metrics were just broken. So it's really a book with some very simple principles, really geared towards kind of university, post-university kids who are grappling and wrestling with trying to get some traction in their life to be able to take action and move forward to achieve their dreams. My podcast is the Lucas Skrobot Show, and you can find that wherever podcasts are found at Lucas Skrobot, LucasSkrobot. That's SK Robot. Yes, it's Polish. I'm Polish and proud of it. So how many Polacks does it take to listen to a podcast? Well, it takes one to make one and you to listen. So roll on over to lucasskrobot.com or anywhere your podcasts are found, and you can find me there. And I love getting questions. I need more questions, Jay. How do you get more questions? So send me a question.
You have to. I normally tell people you have to do giveaways. Giveaways drive questions. Well, it always does.
Guess what? I am doing giveaways. Guess what? If you ask a question, Jay, and it gets played on my show, I will send you this amazing sticker pack. One of the sticker packs is this picture of a whole bunch of little grocers. And one of them, they're all red and say unite. And one of them's green. And it's the story of the green grocer. And what I love about all my stickers is that they're stories. And that they're stories.
Do you want to hear something sad? Do you want to hear something sad?
I want to hear
episode 150. It's episode 155.
It is episode 155. I'm glad that you remember. I forgot.
No, you did not.
No, I do. I always have to look up that one. And the story of the Green Grocer, episode 155, it's the story of saying, don't go along with groupthink. All you have to do is stand up and think for yourself. And that's the goal of my show. If I had an objective of my show, one objective, it would be if I can provoke people to ask questions and seek out truth for themselves, not just going with the majority saying, not just going what they've been told they need to believe, but really earnestly with their whole heart, seek out truth to understand how the world operates and how they are to live in the world, not trying to change it, but just understanding the reality that we live in, waking up to reality. That's a win for me. So if you ask a question on my show, I will send you some stickers.
Now, do you reference the 155 episode on the sticker, if you don't mind me asking?
I do not. It is, when I had all these stickers designed, I thought of how can these stickers tell a story? Because I'm not a big sticker person, and I'm not a big brand. I'm not going to stick your brand name on my, Nalgene bottle or something. But I would put a sticker that tells a story that means something to me. So when I designed all these stickers, I said, how can I tell a story that means something to someone else to remind them of a story, a principle that they want to live by, that they would put on something and then tell their friends about it? They're going to remember that it's from my show. And
I see a QR code in the future that goes directly to the episode.
You know what? That's a great idea. If I could just bake that in.
You could. We can talk about it. Well, Lucas, I really do appreciate you coming on the show. It really does mean a lot to me.
I appreciate being here. Thank you for having me.
Well, this brings another episode of the Jay Allen Show to an end. For more information about Lucas Skrobot, go to lucasskrobot.com. Keep in mind that his podcast is available, and so is his videocast, or video channel, however you want to word it. Anyways, I thought Lucas was a great interviewee and interviewer overall. Hopefully you enjoyed your time with us here today. Anyways, if you want more information on what's going on here at Safety FM, go to safetyfm.com. Thank you for always being best part of Safety FM, and that is the listener. Safety FM is the home of real safety talk. This will bring this episode of The Jay Allen Show to an end. Like I always tell you, goodbye for now, and don't worry, we'll be back in no time with another episode. See you then.
Want more of The Jay Allen Show? Go to safetyfm.com.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.
You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete signal transmission trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all three books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.